Pickle, let's go to the hotline. And let's bring in a professor at Ole Miss, but a guy who we're talking to because he's a White Oak guy. Going out to East Texas.
East Texas.
And talk about a book he's got coming out called Draw the Line, about the 2014 Gilmer Buckeyes. We're joined by Dr. Hunter Traylor. Dr. Traylor, thank you so much for your time.
Greg, thanks so much for having me.
I want to ask you a little bit about your connection to Gilmer, your connection to East Texas. You're a White Oak guy. You don't live there now. Oxford, Mississippi is home for you. But can you tell us a little bit about your ties to the area?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in the White Oak area. My wife, she's also from the Hallsville area. And both of our parents were coaches and teachers in the area. And so, growing up a high school football coach's son, I can't remember a time where I'm not reading your magazine, going to coaching school as a kid. I'm going to this clinic with my dad, and I'm just a little one or whatever. I'm sitting in the back, got to be quiet, bring my toys or whatever like that. You grow up, you're used to being in a field house or a practice field or something like that. It's all about the team and the community and all that kind of stuff. And the places that obviously make up East Texas, the majority of them are small towns. So you're talking, this is probably the primary thing that drives conversation in these towns. And so when you leave an area like that, I think you're always looking for a story or something like that to where you can give somebody a snapshot of what it was like growing up where you're from. And I was fortunate enough, I got to come back to the area in my late 20s, and I was a coach at Spring Hill High School. I was their head basketball coach, and we were in the same district with Jeff Traylor and the Gilmer Buckeyes, Scott Surratt and the Carthage Bulldogs. It was brutal from a football standpoint. And I think y'all nicknamed it the District of Doom. And you talk about, though, from somebody that was always looking to get better and pluck ideas, being a basketball guy, I was just enamored by how great they had built these programs with their communities, how rich they were, and in regards to the amount of pride they took in their football programs and how that kind of like it merged with a town's identity. And I always thought that was just a unique thing about East Texas and Texas in general.
Yeah, most certainly. And so you've written this book, Draw the Line, about the 2014 Gilmer Buckeyes. And I'm interested. There's a lot of great stories in Texas high school football.
Yeah.
Why this one? Why was this the one that you were so drawn to?
Absolutely. I'm trying to do a good job on messaging this because it's not a biopic, right? It's not a bio on just Jeff. I always thought, Jeff was great to me, 10 years ago up until now. And Jeff's great to a lot of people. Like, that's his gift. He's great to you probably. And I think because of that, you got to know him and his staff as a result. And I've never seen such a tight-knit group when they were all together at Gilmer, that they stayed together for so long. And you talk about the potential impact you have in a small town community over the course of almost 20 years, what that does, because we're so transient now. Like, people move, all the time and all that kind of stuff. And so getting to know them, their backstories and their origin stories, I thought, help tell great stories about other places in that area and for Texas high school football. And so I spent time where one of the chapters is just over, when Jeff was mentored by Danny Long and that great staff they had in Jacksonville in the 90s, where the McCowan brothers are their quarterbacks. You can forget about how, legendary that crew was together and the success they had and what that did for that community. And then you go back there's another chapter on just, Danny talking about how him, Matt Turner, and Wayne Coleman all learned under the great Dennis Parker in Marshall. And for East Texas, my in-laws work in Marshall. There's still a lot of proud people about they feel a certain kind of way when you're talking about 1980s, late 80s, 1990 Marshall High School. And those great teams and that state championship team. And then, you talk about that has origins all the way back down to Converse Judson, with D.W. Rutledge. So I thought it was a way to tell a grand story about friendship, loyalty, how coaching is such an apprenticeship. It's a great group that's together, and then they kind of like look over some of the younger coaches on staff, grow them up, and then somebody starts a new, an add-in at another place, and you just see how many people are impacted by this great tree and this level of continuity that's extremely rare nowadays.
We're talking to Dr. Hunter Taylor, the author of Draw the Line, about the upcoming book about the 2014 Gilmer Buckeyes here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation and hashtag TF Today. So this was the final season for Jeff Traylor in Gilmer. Final season there as a Texas high school football coach, although he would tell you that he's still a Texas high school football coach.
Yes.
I'm interested in what your conversations with him were like after this fact, because we know, we're quite familiar with him, as maybe you should cover our magazine. I'm interested what your experience was in talking with Coach Traylor for this book, and getting his perspective on that remarkable season.
For sure. So this was, and I didn't do a great job, I think, even answering part of your last question, because that 2014 season, it was a great way to kind of crisscross and have a capstone season where that great staff that has origins to all these other places. It's the last dance, if you will. They're all last together. And then there were just some unique human interest aspects, as you know. They tragically lost a player at the beginning of the season before it began. You had a controversial transfer in. You had a couple players that just kind of grow into maturity. They become the young men that they're capable of. And they obviously have a fantastic playoff game that's legendary in East Texas when they played Gladewater, Dalen Mack, and then obviously they beat West Orange Start. They win their last championship, and then kind of slowly the band breaks up. But like having convos, we worked on this it's been about 6 years of work, and so we are so proud that this is out there because it's a grand story, I think. And so like the conversations with Jeff, he was always great about it, but like you know him for a long time, so like these were casual, candid conversations for so long, and now, like, I think you almost think, hey, these have to be formal things done, and was it like the staff let you in for a specific period of time? It was like you just got a lot of candid conversations over a long period of time. Jeff was so great about opening the key, if you will. That's a very tight knit group over there in Gilmer, as you know, and so for them to feel comfortable enough to share the good stuff, if you will, of like, what it was really like on, the great aspects, the tough aspects of being a staff for that long and how they all viewed each other. And they're like brothers. And then also, I thought the part that was so fun for me, that the project had enough trust to yield was like when I got to talk with Blake Lynch, Chris Boyd, and McLean Carter, because especially like McLean, GJ's younger brother, as most people remember him as. But McLean had a heck of a career on his own. But he was best friends with Desmond Pollard, the player that they tragically lost, and so that's a very sensitive thing to talk about when you have to relive something that was traumatic, and that's really kind of like. I'm sure it marked him in a way where he now, that was a marker where you got to grow up fast, and then kind of like, what are your motivations for playing and how you honor someone, and grief and celebration. The whole deal. Those conversations, I thought they were very sacred, and I was very, very grateful that whole group felt good enough over time to trust me with those stories.
Dr. Hunter Taylor joining us here, the author of Draw the Line. And final question for you, Doctor. I want to ask you a little bit about, you were familiar with this story, obviously.
Right.
Living in East Texas, being just a high school football fan, somebody who likes it, it's hard not to know this story. As you're going through and doing the deep dive and researching this story that's necessary for a book like this, was there anything that surprised you? Was there anything that like caught you by surprise in learning more about this story that made you kind of take a step back and say, whoa, I didn't realize it was that?
Oh, totally. So the thing is, I think you learn the most about someone by who they have standing to the right and the left of them. Like who somebody associates with, you get a really good picture of what they really value and who they spend their time with. And so I think that's something I've always admired about Jeff, and grew to a much greater level of respect is getting to know Matt Turner and people like him and Alan Metzel. And that's just to name a few. There's a lot more. But like growing up there and then even coming back to coach in that area when they were all still together, I never heard of Matt Turner.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was pretty plugged in, from family stuff or whatever. And so you learn about somebody that there's not a self-promoting bone in his body, wants to be left alone, wants to just coach, serve, go home, raise his family, then come back and solely focus on kids. Or Alan Metzel, who's a head football coach, AD, and then pastors a church on the side, and he doesn't take a salary. And he stepped in to do that stuff when his stepfather passed away. And, like, those people don't exist. I mean, you're like, I don't know people that live moment to moment and day to day with the amount of faithfulness and integrity as those people do. And so the fact that, like, they love Jeff loves them, and there's several others. I'm not even, that's the tip of the iceberg. But, like, you get a good picture of who someone is and what they value and what the program's built on and what a community values, right? Like, that's a very deep community that they honor people of character, and they kind of like put them on a pedestal. Now those people have to back it up then too, and men like Matt Turner and Alan Metzel, they back it up.
He's Dr. Hunter Taylor. He's the author of Draw the Line, Jeff Traylor, the Gilmer Buckeyes in a Season Deep in the Heart of East Texas. Where can folks pick up this book?
Easiest way is it's online at Amazon right now, but I mean, Barnes & Noble's a carrier, Target's a carrier. If they don't have it, they've got it in their inventory to where they can order that for you. We're going to do a couple more in-person events. We're actually doing one today in Gilmer, and Jeff's coming in for it. The whole staff and the gang will have a good time. And then tomorrow night in the historic Tomato Bowl in Jacksonville, Texas, we're going to do an event in their press box, and it's open to the public. And, you'll have, not only Jeff, Danny Long, the McCowans. It's going to be sweet. And then we're going to do one thing July 11th in Marshall, where the great Dennis Parker is going to come in and those folks. And then we'll be in San Antonio in coaching school, and we'll have copies with us there and are looking for some creative ways to do some things in San Antonio. So.
Exceptional. Dr. Taylor, we certainly appreciate your time. Congratulations on the book, and very best of luck to you.
Thanks so much, Greg. And Greg, I really respect a lot what you do. I don't even know if you remember this. I met you on the sidelines of the 6A state finals game, Westlake, this past year. And I came up to you.
Yes.
And I said, man, we live up in Oxford, Mississippi now. I even got my parents to move up there. And they pay extra to get whatever extra, the channels that aren't part of the normal package, so we can watch your show.
Wow.
So,
well, we sure appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dr. Taylor. All the best.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, there goes Dr. Hunter Taylor. The book is Draw the Line, Jeff Traylor, the Gilmer Buckeyes in a Season Deep in the Heart of East Texas. I'm going to need to pick up a copy. I haven't read it yet. I need to pick it up. But I'm obviously familiar with that story and familiar with Jeff Traylor and all of that, so it should be a good read. We appreciate Dr. Hunter Taylor joining us.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.